I've been working this summer preparing materials for small groups, this being year 3 of small groups. You may recall that a small group is a group conversation. It can be as small a group as 2 people, or most of the groups at CBI have been about 6 to 8. It's our 3rd year. The first year we had 94 different hosts that wound up being about in the mid-80s, meaning 300 or 400 of our people participated in small groups. I hope that will be the case this year too. This year the topic is Born to Love, Why, How, and With Whom. So if you want to take a look at this, the 3rd draft of the booklets, I'll leave them out. But I asked Anna Cottle in our office if she could find some New Yorker cartoons to add a little bit more fun to the conversation, the booklets. And I share with you a cartoon that was not included in the booklet. And I have one eye on the clock. I know it's already 11:45. So a short conversation and to link it to the Devar Torah. So this is the cartoon. Can you see? I'll describe it after. It's Moses holding the 10 Commandments and a hand, apparently God's hand, instead of the 10 Commandments, a stone that looks like a heart. Now, when I first saw this, Anna had, put it in. We were going over this draft. I said, I don't think this works. But I want to talk about it for a moment. First, any short reactions to what you might guess have been my concern, or might be your concern, with instead of the 10 Commandments, take this other stone instead. So, any comments? Any thoughts, Phyllis? So one question is, what if it's in addition to the stone tablets? Then it might have been fine. But what else? So that's a possibility. Why else? Why do you think I said I don't think so? Why? Do you have any thoughts why I would have said no? Steve? So the 10 Commandments, which God gave to Moses in the storyline of the Bible, was then, through the Jewish people, the gift to humanity. So if this is in addition to, even if it's in addition to, it takes away from the 10 Commandments being enough. Do you need more? Gary? So that's why I was uncomfortable with it, for kind of the reason. The polemic of Paul was, you don't need all those laws, all you need is love. And that became the critique against Judaism in terms of the history of the unfolding. There's a wonderful book called Paul and Palestinian Judaism by a man named E.P. Sanders, who's a Christian scholar, saying that that was the key polemic against Judaism, that it was a religion of laws and not of love. Howard? Nice. In fact, we have that line of Ezekiel, I will replace your heart of stone, saying to the Jewish people. See, that's what I love about the prophets in that introduction by Isaiah, is our prophets, they're not afraid to talk to power about corruption. And the critique of Ezekiel, I think it's Ezekiel, is, I will replace your heart of stone with a heart that feels, a heart of compassion. So who needs a heart of stone? That might be one thing. Now I'll show you, when I told her that I don't think I wanted to use it, she said, well, actually, I took off the caption because I told her about the history of polemic. And she said, actually, here's what the caption read. A little something for the wife, in terms of the heart, in the New Yorker cartoon originally. So just a couple thoughts. One, for our parents, love is not enough and essential, right? You want to have, in conveying to children, core values. And in conveying core values to children, they need the security of knowing what's permitted and not permitted. You can't eat a cookie anytime you see a cookie to a parent, right? As much as that child wants the cookie, and I've seen those tantrums, there's educating when you eat the cookie, when you don't eat the cookie. With the value being, there is something called healthy eating. And we continue to relearn that throughout our lives. Which is to say, it's not only about parenting that there have to be clear expectations in order for your children to grow healthily, but it's true for all of us. We need throughout our lives values that get translated into specifics. Because values, it's like the heart too, doesn't allow knowing what to do in the tough spot. So again, back to the cookie. We adults too need to some degree have a clarity of when we're going to eat sweets and when we're not going to eat sweets if we're going to stay healthy. That's true in a society. In a society, there needs to be law in order for a society to operate. I've been writing a lot about love, so I get, things I've left out. And there's that line of Elie Wiesel that the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. And another way to say that is, the opposite of love is having no expectations, ignoring clarity of values, ignoring what the rule should be in order to protect the most vulnerable in your midst, which is also to say, in order to protect each of us from our own vulnerabilities. You see, each of us has our own weaknesses that are our own temptations of expediency, of selfishness. And our religious tradition is valuable precisely because it makes us pause and ask, what matters? And how do we translate what matters into the details of law? We are a religion of law proudly. In the book of Deuteronomy that we begin today, there are 100 laws. 70 of the 100 appear nowhere else in the Torah. Moses is not just summarizing the past, he's preparing the people for the future, when they will accept the responsibilities of governance. Because governance translates into law. To be indifferent as to what the law is, all the more in a democracy, is to abdicate values. Ribono Shel Olam, Master of the universe, law is love. And yet Robert Covers, the great Yale constitutional lawyer, said, you can only read law through the lens of a narrative. Our Torah provides a narrative, the story of our people, seeking our own ability to rule ourselves in a promised land. But it is only with the memory of our failings and with laws of how to live that we can take that narrative and translate it into a future of stability and nobility. Ribono Shel Olam, Master of the universe, we are still on that journey to the promised land. May we study your law and may it elevate us. Amen.